Max is not in yet. I saw Grace was in. I'm slaying this name thing today. Okay. Tika is not in yet. And Rebecca, I tell you. Okay. Settle in, take a glance. I'm not going to talk for a little bit because I know everyone's not paying attention to me and they're looking at their exams. Yes.
Does the most center come later? Because I also.
Did you end up taking it? Because I remember, didn't you email me about being sick? Or was that somebody else? That was you. Okay, yes. Sorry, it's Kyle and Kira. I always get them mixed up. Yes.
And mine also says 0. It's still in.
Really? Okay, so the Moses exam, what they usually do is they scan it and they send it to the professor, and the professor has to look out and grade it. So if he hasn't done that yet, I'll go hunt him down again because he also was like super late on giving you accommodations, right?
Yeah.
Bro, okay. Good thing we have class today. I'm about to beat. Okay. Anyone missing exams? Anyone missing comprehension checks? You didn't get a 0 if you took it. Yeah. Anyone? I have your exam. Andre, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I am actually slaying the name thing today.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Putting a public service announcement that you have exactly 1 week starting right now, this time, to protest your grade. And if you're going to protest your grade to the head TA, tell me so I can back you up. If you think something's unfair about your short answer, for example, if you think they were way too harsh on it, or you're comparing your test to somebody else's in this class and you're like, wait, this was not graded right. I have your test too, I remember. I'm trying to remember. Don't tell me your name. I think I got it. It is not Brian. It's not Sean. Is it Youngling? No. Tell me your name. Joseph. That's right. Yeah. And the staple came off. Yeah. You have 1 week to protest your short answer. And also, really check your multiple choice against each other, because I already went through all of the Scantrons because it scanned one person in this class is wrong and gave him a 22, and I had to go to the head TA and be like, yo, this is completely wrong. You scanned it against test B's answers when it was a test A, and if you do that, the grade got raised to a 97. So really check your multiple choice. If you think it's absurdly low, let me know. But I already checked everybody's. That was the only one that really stood out. It made sense. Yeah. Take that in. Breathe. It's the first one. I know that they usually grade short answers rougher than I do. If you did well enough on the multiple choice, I usually looked the other way on the short answers. Technically, I'm supposed to only grade the short answers, but I was really against that form of grading, only on 3 points. So what I did is I just made multiple choice, and if you do well in the multiple choice, I'll just be more lenient on your short answer. Don't tell people about that though, because I could get in trouble for saying this class is too easy compared to other recitations and stuff. But always do the multiple choice, and if you do well on that, I'll try to be more lenient on short answer. But it's not going to be like that on the real day of the exam. Yeah?
Is the optional test at the end, is it going to be...
So when he says optional, it means that you're allowed to drop one. You're allowed to drop your lowest one. So
you drop it. Your lowest one.
Yeah. So it's optional if you slayed the first 3 and you're okay, I got this in check. I don't need to do the whole comprehensive one that has every single part of the class on it. I got hundreds on 1, 2, and 3. I don't have to take that. But if you got sick, for example, you still have to take the final. Does that make sense? They technically put that in because they kept like getting in trouble for like somebody missing an exam for religious reasons, and they're like, nah, it wouldn't be fair if you got to drop this exam and nobody else did. And so they made this like free drop. It's not actually to help you out, it's just because they got in trouble with like people getting sick and people having religious reasons or people having mental breakdowns.
Right.
But
so
yeah.
So it doesn't average with your lowest. The lowest just
They'll drop the lowest. So
okay.
For example, if you get the lowest on the second exam,
right,
you're going to drop that one.
Okay.
People usually get the lowest on the the full cumulative one at the end. That one could get dropped.
Okay.
If your lowest is the first exam, that can get dropped. It's whatever the lowest exam is, and then they keep the other 3 grades and they average them ish out.
Okay.
And that like becomes your like final like
test grade
for that category. Because remember, there's other parts to your grade too. It's not just tests. Like I believe you also have a research requirement. Recitation is graded. Recitation attendance is graded. How you do on the recitation tests / comprehension checks is graded. That stuff too. So just remember that, hey, if you don't do too hot on the first exam, there's 3 more. You know, and for the comprehension checks, there's like 10, okay? So if you like kind of missed a lot of points on one comprehension check, you're still good. You still have chances to recover. And also the bottom 2 recitation tests or recitation comprehension checks, whatever, are gonna be dropped because y'all are coming in sick a lot, and I don't want that to like mess you up. Vitrika, I remember you. And I remember your name, and I have your test. Just saw it. Promise I have it. Didn't lose it. Have it somewhere. Kyle. Yes, not Kira. Kyle, not Kira. And bro, I just saw this. Okay. Wait. I promise I just saw it. Sean, Yeoling, Verdant, Max, Amy, oh, I see, it's Biden. There you go. Where was I, though? So, yeah, I encourage you to protest if you want, as long as it's not too me. You can protest your comprehension check if you really want, but it's, like, out of 3 points. Like, do you really want to do that with the rest of your day, or do you want to spend that time studying for the next one? If you want, sure, let's go to court. But if you want to go against the boss TAs, like. But we're gonna go over yay, Laura's in. We're gonna go over some of the questions, possibly, some of the short answers, possibly, and other stuff today. So we did pretty good as a class. So our average was around an 86 as a class. And top 75% was like 93. And the bottom 25% was around 76. So we did good. We were higher than the class average, which was around an 83. And the entirety of Knowles' class did better than Reed's class. Reed had a 78 as an average on his exam. So be glad that you're in Knowles' class. Be glad that you're in this recitation. You guys are doing amazing. I'm so proud of you. We had 3 100s in this class, and make my heart so happy. And if you're like, bro, I knew I could have done better, I should have studied more, or like that kind of shit, I just want to let you know that your tuition is going somewhere. Make the most of it. Don't pay for private tutoring. Use this. Get your money back from NYU. Go to class. Every class is $250 per hour, bro. So when you skip a class, you're losing like $500, okay? So please go to class. Please use these resources. You can also come to my office hours. They're on Wednesdays from like 9 to 12-ish. And yeah, there are ways to get a better grade if you're not happy with yours. Okay, so reviewing last week, how can I best teach you what has and hasn't worked? I noticed that a lot of them was about examples, silly memorization, sentences, and practice tests. So reviewing that, you can go and you can get all your notes from this little one right here. Everyone knows that if you're sick one day, you can get notes, right? We have flashcards. We have notes here. Slay to all of y'all for turning in your notes. Everyone give an applause for Hermione and Grace and Genesis. Good job today. All right. Okay, that was last week. Wait. Abdul and Alex and Nash and Grace, y'all turn it in. And I also made graphs that you can find on Brightspace. I've uploaded those as review and also to test yourself. So if you go to charts, you'll find all the charts. I've made a bunch more since you guys like charts so much. Breaking down sensation and perception, proximal and distal senses, the dorsal and ventral paths as well. This, which was on the exam, and it was also the most missed question of the entire class, which I was gonna do in my exam review, but y'all were like, nah, I want to break down short answers instead, so we also have all the different philosophical concepts, which since the beginning I've been like, it messes people up every year, the difference between materialism and idealism, and now they're adding more. So y'all prepare yourself. Now there's dualism, which if I were to give like a really quick example of what that means, it's materialism, idealism, both. Okay? And then we have realism now too. We're also going into brain stuff, and brain stuff trips up people every single year. And so I just gave like a quick description and example. This is less of a memorization chart and more of like a what can I write about it, what do I know about it, like organize your notes kind of chart. And then when you feel good about that, everyone flip to that page. You can have a self-test. And so you can see, like, do you know the temporal? Do you know the spatial? What it uses, what it does? Is it invasive? A lot of people miss that PET scans are invasive. Remember, posturon emission tomography is when you inject radioactive dye into your veins and set off multiple alarms for the police thinking that you are a radioactive bomb. Okay, that's gonna be the most invasive one. The rest of them are just like magnets and electricity. That one, like you're actually making yourself radioactive. Please remember that one. Thought that was an easy question, but yeah, comprehension check said no. I also want you guys to try taking Cornell notes today. Cornell is known for having the harshest grade depression, which means that they will grade your test downward, or grade your the entire. You know how when they curve tests, it usually goes up? Cornell grades them and it goes down. And so what they did is they developed this thing called Cornell Notes, and it is literally, I'm pretty sure, empirically proven to be better at retention, to be better against that Great Depression. We don't have that here at NYU, but I really recommend analyzing your note methods. Like, what is working for you? Are you using flashcards? How are you catching every single word that I'm saying? How are you going to remember it if you were to teach this again? Yeah, I recommend trying to fill this out in today's recitation. Try out the Cornell method, see if it works for you, see if you could survive at Cornell. And yeah, we're also going to go over some techniques if that works for you guys or not. And some Q&A questions. Sure, you can bring it on. We don't have a comprehension check today because I'm just going over exam stuff. We're probably going to have an open Q&A and then break into small groups, and you guys can teach and help each other. But yeah. What do you guys feel like? Do you guys feel like reviewing more of the test with each other, or just learning about what we did in class last week? Like, what are we feeling? I want to hear people's voices this time around. Brain and perception, okay. Sensory, sensation. Learning what we learned last week, okay. Slay. I think the only question that I am really rather worried about was the one on temporal resolution versus spatial resolution. Everyone go to that part of your packet. This one was the most missed question on the exam. I want you guys to try to fill out this chart and see if you can answer this question correctly next time. If you want, I can go over this chart again. Yeah, might be worthwhile. Thought you guys were going to have a lot more questions about the exam. Okay. Sorry, my screen is having issues today because Zoom isn't working, so I had to download this random app called OBS to record the lecture today. But yeah, okay. Who remembers what TMS is? What is it good at? Anyone? Transcranial magnetic stimulation. They use it to treat depression. It's like kind of a last-ditch effort. If no medications are working for you, no depression, like no therapy is working for you, they'll take a magnet and they will like literally cause like slight differences in the electrical activity in a particular spot of your brain, and that'll create like a fake lesion. It'll disrupt that activity and possibly kind of restart your system so that depression goes away. It's not that invasive. Like, you're not like injecting something into your skin. You're not digging and doing brain surgery. It's still on this like kind of surface part of your brain. It's not going that deep, so it's not that invasive. And it's really rather quick. That's why it's good temporally, but not spatially. EEG, I think you guys remember this one. It was when I had a seizure and I was covered with those tiny electrodes. That one is very good temporally, which means it's good in time. It's very quick. It can record like a seizure happening within milliseconds, but it doesn't go deep into the brain. For example, it doesn't reach those deep cortexes, corpus callosum, the midbrain, that kind of stuff. And also, it only has like 19 electrodes. If you take neuropsychology, they make you memorize every single electrode and its kind of activity, 0 to 10. But 19 spots on your head is not that much. So therefore, it is like pretty bad depth-wise and like area-wise. But it's good at time. For example, if you remember last week, I showed the picture of me with an EEG at the APA convention, and it was tracking my brain in real time to see how I learn. I think that could be the future of education. Maybe next time you take a class like this, you'll all have like electrodes on too. It's also good not only for those seizures, but also sleep apnea. If you're going to have abnormal brain activity, they'll put you in a sleep study. I did mine at Stanford, and they'll see if you're having weird sleep, like weird REM waves, that kind of stuff. If you're having seizures in your sleep, it's good for that too. The whole point of it is that it's in real time, okay? Like, they can track that shit in real time. They can see that you're having a seizure in real time. You want to stop that stuff immediately, okay? You want to know that, not like 3 hours from now, but immediately. Okay, fMRI. This is the most common one. I feel like one person in a room always has had an fMRI. I talked about it when I was introducing you guys to Soma and how my friend just got to sleep in an fMRI for 3 hours and got paid like $150. That's what this is. It basically is this donut-sized magnet that they put you in, and the magnet will shift really suddenly and go around and around and around. And as it shifts, your brain will react to it because your brain has H2O in it, and the O will actually shift a little bit, creating a picture of your brain. You don't have to know the details about how it works. You just have to know that as it shifts over the span of like 3 to 5 hours, it will take a really in-depth picture of your brain, and it's really freaking cool. If you look at last week's slides, I have like a picture of me in an fMRI looking at my brain. You should know that if you were gonna have a seizure in an fMRI, they would like not know immediately. It would take 3 to 5 hours to be like, oh yeah, I guess they were having a seizure 3 to 5 hours ago. But you can see like every little crevice of your brain. It's really cool. So if you have a lesion maybe in the brainstem, you'd want to get an fMRI. That's why in Grey's Anatomy, they're always asking for an fMRI. They want to know where that seizure is happening. Not seizure. They want to know where that lesion is, where that tumor is, okay? They want like, in-depth view. And then PET doesn't usually happen all that much because it's super invasive. This was a question a lot of people missed. Is PET invasive? The answer is yes. And it takes a long time. Like, you have to inject it, and then the radioactive dye will find glucose in your body, and it'll like travel to all the little places in your body that it is, and then they'll take a picture of that. But it is, it's really specific. Like, for example, if they were trying to find a particular chemical that was causing schizophrenia in your brain, they could inject PET dye for that particular chemical, and it would go around, and it would eventually find it, and it would show in the brain where those spots are, so they can treat it. So it's like chemical specific. It can find like a specific molecule of glucose, for example. So it's really awesome, except for the fact that it makes you radioactive. And people don't usually use it that much anymore because we don't need that kind of specificity. The most common one is probably going to be fMRI. So looking at your notes, everything that you wrote down in your little chart, that is really all the information you need to know to answer the question. Temporal resolution versus spatial resolution, okay? It's not number 15 in everybody's tests. It differs if you have test A or test B. But quickly look over that, see if you got that question right, and if you didn't, was it that you didn't memorize this chart, or was it that you're still confused? That's a really important thing to know, okay? I'm also going to go over some guided note methods. Feel free to follow along. I left these blanks so you can write them. I feel like sometimes, I looked at all your short answers for the exam. I'm realizing maybe it's not you haven't repeated it enough. You haven't written it down. Like, I want you to be able to write this on the day of the exam. And so I think what's happening is there's an issue with note-taking. You're not really retaining it because you're not recording it in the right way, possibly. But I just wanted to go over some of these techniques. These are the ones that have worked for me. I have like really severe ADHD, and I tutor other people who have learning disabilities, and this is what works for us. It has gotten me through principles of bio, general chemistry, social neuroscience, and I used to be a terrible, terrible test taker. I still really can't take notes, but I'm taking a grad class in neuropsych, and so something is working out with this technique. I would really pay attention. So level 1 is blurting. This is probably the easiest out of 2 levels. It has 3 steps. Everyone write down the name of the technique, the blurting technique. What I do after lecture, say you're getting out of intro to psych, it's like, 4 or 5 now, and you're coming out of that lecture hall, and you just sit down and you blurt down everything that you can possibly remember from the lecture. Okay? Like, it doesn't matter what order, it doesn't matter what you're doing. if it's wrong or if it's right. Just try to see how much you can immediately remember from the lecture, from the lesson. Okay? Oh, so you will be turning this in next week, by the way. So if you're not going to fill it out now, you'll have to go home and fill it out later. So, lecture lesson level 1, blurting. Immediately remember, write down everything you can. And then after that, just immediately check it against your notes in class. What did you miss? What was really hard to remember? What kind of tripped you up? Was it the types of imaging tests? Was it a particular concept? Highlight what you forgot and what you really struggled with. And then go home, do your other work, like take a break, go for a walk. But that night, try blurting it out again. See if you can improve this time. See what you remember from that revision, what you remember from those highlighted notes. This is spaced repetition. There's many empirical tests that show that this will improve your memory long term. And I have people who just do this and they don't do flashcards or study or anything and they still do well on the exam because spaced repetition is really, really powerful. You immediately do it, so that's short-term memory, that's synthesizing, that's organizing. And then that night, you try again. Check against the notes, see what you forgot. Did you forget the same stuff again? Do you really need to review that stuff? And yeah, that's about it. See what you forgot. Once you feel like you're good on that, try for level 2. Level 2 is the Feynman technique. This is used at a lot of Ivy League schools, and they will actively teach it to the students because it is pretty effective. What it is step 1. Can you teach the slides? Do you really understand it enough, not only to remember the key terms and definitions, but can you teach that stuff? Just try practicing. Just like go up to some empty classroom and be like, okay, I'm going to pretend to be professor today. Let's see if I can improv teach it. And you can BS your way through it. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just see if you can in the first place. Okay? Do you get his examples? Do you remember his examples? And then after you're done with that first round, you're like, damn, okay, maybe I really need to review this, or damn, I slayed that part of the lecture slides. Like, I should really review those notes for it. I really recommend doing this, especially because looking over his last exam, he used a lot of his own examples. Another question that was missed a lot was that moth example, which I barely remember because I created my own examples for that, but it was a bad question because you had to be there on that particular day to get that particular question. So I really recommend doing the Feynman technique and going through his slides and seeing if you can remember his examples, because I think that it will be on the next exam. For the slides you'd be embarrassed to teach, go back and read notes for it, prepare, and try again. This time, if you feel confident enough, you know those key terms, you know those definitions, you know the examples, improv it without looking. There's no reading off each slide. You're just telling the audience as it is. See if you can do that. That is ultimate fluency, okay? Mix up the wording. Stop quoting yourself or him. Really try to make it more casual and fluid. Like I do in class, I'm not reading off lecture notes and whatever. I'm just improv-ing. Make it feel natural. Make up your own examples. And then, if you feel good about that, try teaching my slides. They're different, but they're on the same stuff. And if you can do that, and you really feel good about that, find a study buddy and teach each other. It's really good because, one, you're going over the stuff you taught. You're going over the stuff when you teach it, you're okay, I know this shit. I can give examples. I can give my own examples. And then the person listening is also learning, and they're oh, I get it now. Holy shit. So it's a double benefit. I really recommend, teaming up with somebody else and trying to teach it to each other. And if you're not making sense, they can tell you, and they can be no, you need to review that. What the hell are you saying? But yeah, those are the two techniques that I would really recommend, other than Cornell notes, which has been proven to be really, really effective. I like them because they make me synthesize my notes. It's kind of like when you make an outline for an essay, instead of having to read through the entire damn essay, you can just look at the outline and you can be like, oh, okay, that's what I did today. And then like a cute little summary, which is like an abstract. It makes a lot of sense why they do so well. But I would really recommend trying those, maybe this today in lecture, maybe today in recitation. Just give it a try. Mix up the way you're taking notes and studying and see if you can like make it more effective. All right. That is about it I have for reviewing stuff, preparing for the next exam, that kind of stuff. Everyone feel good about that? Yeah? All right. You guys got this. Part 2 of this class. We're going to go over into some Freudian stuff. You're going to hear a lot about Freud if you're a psych major. The guy was like the entire founder of psychoanalysis. If you study abroad in London, at that NYU site, you'll be able to see his house, and they'll give a whole lecture on like Freud and stuff. If you're at Gallatin, they have a whole class or 3 on him. They even have a minor in like Freudian stuff, psychoanalysis, but he's really, really, really important. I recommend going to his Wikipedia page and just like skimming that shit, because this is one of his key theories. He was the first person in the world to be like, hey, maybe we have thoughts that we're not aware of. Like maybe we have unconscious that we just like don't know. It's like secretly overriding our actions and making us like act in inexplicable ways, like the sudden strike of jealousy or like sudden flash of anger. It's because of this unconscious. And he kind of made it simple. It's kind of reductive, but I'm going to teach it anyways. He was like, we only have like 3 parts to us. We have the ID. Think about like that primal guttural rage that you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic or someone pushes you on the subway. Feel like that midnight snack that you just really need and you get out of bed and you eat. Like, he believed that the ID was our most primal instinctual self. He thought that everyone at their core was just trying to hold this part back, like Lord of the Flies style. Like, we are all secretly evil, but we have these 2 other things that are keeping this in check, okay? So, when you're on the test and they're like, okay, which part is like hella primitive, prone to violence, prone to sexual urges, for example, it's the ID, okay? Next part is the ego. This is the stuff that we're pretty much conscious of. It's mediating the superego and ID. Superego is conscious and unconscious. I really recommend just memorizing this iceberg because I don't think he does like charts on the exam, but he's probably going to ask it because it's so easy. And if you don't memorize it now, you're going to have to memorize it in some other psych class, unless you're taking this as a requirement. But the superego is that moral part of yourself. It's saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't kill everyone just for their money, or maybe we shouldn't rob and steal, or maybe we should care about others. It's that one like part of your brain that's like, okay, maybe today I'll pay for the subway because I don't want to get shot. Like, I'm not going to jump the turnstile today. I'm going to be moral. That is your superego. And so he believes he has these 2 parts of yourself, kind of like an angel and a devil on each corner. Devil is the ID, and then angel is the superego. And then the ego right here is mediating those 2. So you have devil and angel and a mediator. And the ego is just trying to make sense of both of them. It's like, oh shit, like I should really like take that random iPad that I see over there. And then your super ego's like, oh no, like that could have been your iPad. Someone could have stolen that from you. And your ego is just trying to mediate that, trying to figure that out. And that's what you're most really conscious of, is that like kind of dilemma in your head. He believes that we spend most of our time just like in this ego part. Yeah. Does anyone have questions about that? No? Which part is the angel? Superego. Which part is like kind of the primal devil-ish kind of thing? Id, yeah. Which one's mediating them? Ego, yes. Okay, slay. You guys got that in check. He's probably going to talk more about it in class. I noticed that a lot of you guys had, yep.
Why is the super ego so big if like most actions are primal? Like why is
Because
that so big?
the size doesn't really matter. What he's trying to show is that part of it is in our conscious mind and part of it is in our unconscious.
Okay.
So, for example, I do have those thoughts sometimes where I'm like, okay, maybe I should do good today. Maybe I should round up for charity. Maybe I should pay for the subway, or maybe I should hold the door when somebody's running towards the elevator. I do have those conscious thoughts. But then sometimes it's more unconscious. It's more like, okay, I should have a moral ground. Like, it's more out, not verbal, but like in our subconscious, yeah.
And then, sorry, just the, what's the difference between like pre-conscious and unconscious?
Pre-conscious is kind of in between. So we have like the conscious thoughts that we can verbalize, the unconscious ones that we don't even know about, and then like this inkling that something is up, and that's pre-conscious. I doubt that he'll focus too much on that, but there is a mediating stage between them.
Could you say that like the id is unconscious, the ego is pre-conscious, and the superego is conscious? Does that make sense, or is it kind of like they mix? Like,
they mix a little bit more than that.
okay.
For example, you can have unconscious superego thoughts, like my moral ground that I'm not entirely aware of. I have not put it down into words, but it's there. I feel it. I feel it when I don't murder people every day. That's unconscious. I have the pre-conscious, like I'm a good person, kind of. I don't know how to verbalize it, but I feel that. And then the conscious, like, oh yeah, I've decided not to murder people every day. Conscious. Id, you should know, is like pretty much unconscious. That we all have it within us. That Lord of the Flies kind of like, we could sit up today, but it's in our unconscious. But it does rule over our thoughts. It's this idea that we are secretly influenced by it. Yeah.
So like, could you say that your id is basically like instinct?
Yeah. It would. I think he would argue that it is like the first part of ourselves, the part that was obsessed with survival.
Okay.
I kind of like to compare it to the brainstem part of the brain, because both of those are kind of like the first part, the primal part that makes you survive. Like if I'm on the verge of a ledge or something and I'm like, ooh, that looks kind of fun, it is going to be like, yo, what the fuck, get back. But yeah, I saw a question and then I forgot it. Yes.
For the superego, how would you like explain that? Like, I know it's like the anger part of the brain, but would you like explain it as like your goodness reasoning, or
Like a moral ground, like something counteracting all the like selfish parts of you that's like, oh, I should only care about myself, I should really only care about my own survival. Like the superego on the other hand is like, let's care about others, let's have like other thoughts that are not just about yourself, like community, morals. I really would sum it down to morals. If you want to remember one word, just remember just morals. Okay? How does the mediate between the two of them? I can give an example of a dilemma. Let me think. Okay. What's a like really common one that we face on a day-to-day basis? Kind of ready. Let's think. I could just use the turnstile example. Or, I don't know. Maybe, okay, someone pushes me on the subway, right? It's 8 a.m., I'm trying to get to this class, and someone like actively just shoves me so they can get onto the train that I actively miss, and so I'm like 10 minutes late for this. And I'm like, bro, I crave murder. Like, I want to grab that person and just like, you know, and that's like my ID part. I'm like, I'm capable of stuff that I'm not even conscious of yet. Like, and then my superego's like, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe like they're really late and they have a presentation too. Like, maybe they have a meeting that's gonna make or break their career. Like, I have like these conscious thoughts about like all these reasons, these preconscious ones that are like, hey, like, it's not a good thing to do, like, maybe you shouldn't, morals, and then unconscious that's just ruling over me and being like, okay, wait, we're not gonna murder. But like, I'm not verbalizing that, it's just within me that I have limitations. And then the ego is like mediating between the two of them. Wait one sec. The ego is basically like, okay, wow, I have a lot of urges right now. Like, I really want to like murder that person and grab them and throw them underneath the subway. But then the other part of me that's like, no, murder is wrong. We should be part of a community. Let's not go Lord of the Flies. And my final decision is really influenced by this ego that's like, let's not do that today. I am angry, but I will not commit murder. Does that make sense? There's like two parts of you, angel, devil, mediator. Okay, angel, devil, mediator. Some parts are unconscious, some parts are conscious. If you're confused, memorize this, try to label it, give me an example, get back to me. Last moment for questions. I noticed a lot of people were confused on the last comprehension check. I want to be more specific that these parts are on the inner part of the brain. So if you were to peel it like an orange, like this is your brain, you could peel it open and those little cortexes would be on the inside of your brain, right? Oh, so does everyone remember parts of the brain? Let's try it once because I feel like that's good review. What is this? Frontal. What is this? What rules above you? Parietal. What's below you? Temporal, those temporous kids. What's on the back? Occipital. And then what's like? And if you were to open up that brain, you would get these little things, okay? They're not taking up the whole lobe. They're just like little segments, little parts. It's like, yes.
When you say that, are you referring to like those like lines, or are you referring to like the blobs?
So these lines this is the primary motor cortex, and this is the somatary sensory cortex. They're parts of a larger lobe. So think about it this way. If this was Manhattan, for example, you can have different parts of Manhattan. You can have, like, this is Manhattan, this is like East Village. It's still part of Manhattan, right? It's just like a little part, a segment of Manhattan. And then lower down here, if you peel back the brain, you've got like what? This would be like Two Bridges area, you know? And all of it still composes of like a city. It's just like little territories, little segments. Does that make sense?
So both those lines and the blobs are segments?
Mm-hmm. And so breaking that metaphor down further, like we have different parts of the brain. We have different boroughs. This is Manhattan, but maybe we also have like Brooklyn over here. Brooklyn has its own little things. Maybe this is like, I don't know, Brooklyn. Williamsburg, thank you. Maybe this is Williamsburg. I need to get out more. And maybe this is like Queens, and maybe this is like Bronx, and maybe I'm just outing myself for being completely absorbed in Manhattan, and maybe that's JFK, Newark, New Jersey. Yeah, okay. But y'all get it that like, it's all one city. It's still all one composed things. There's just tiny little territories within it, you know? And it breaks down into these boroughs, like, but all together, it still makes one map, okay? They're not separate. They're just within, like, they're little territories within a bigger city. Does that make sense? Yeah? We feeling it? An entire borough, little segments of the borough, little territories of the borough, but all together, a huge city of New York. Yeah? Okay? We feeling that? We should know this by now. We kind of do. You guys did good. I was gonna like have this as review, but you guys fucked it up for real. I think the only ones that I didn't really talk about was like that one kid that had that ganglion cyst, and it was like perfect for the cerebellum. Cerebellum's great. Love the cerebellum. And then like little territories within your burrows. This would be the primary motor cortex. This would be the somatosensory cortex. Also known as that terrifying homunculus figure. Remember the guy with like huge hands and like a crazy ass tongue? That's this little part right here. He takes up that entire part of the city. Okay? You feeling good about this? Like if I were to give you another test today with the same exact like diagram, y'all would be able to do this? Okay? I was slightly worried last time, but you guys overall did good on this. Okay. Why is that not loading? Fair enough. I also had a couple questions about this, and I wanted to explain it more thoroughly because people are like, is this part of the brain still? Is this not part of the brain? And I was like, no, like going off of this metaphor, like you got the brain, right? Like this, but you can peel that open. You can peel it open, so like if this were like an orange and this were like a peel, you can like peel it open. And you have this inner part right here. And what's inside of it? This is inside of it. You got the limbic system. You don't have to memorize the parts. If you want me to teach it to you, if you're going down the neural track, you'll definitely have to know it. But we've got like this limbic system, which is basal ganglia, amygdala, and then a thalamus inside here. And it basically just lives in the inside of this orange, okay? You just gotta know that this is still part of the brain. Someone was like, is this a second thing? I was like, no, we're still in the brain. You can see the peel is still out here. It's on the outer part, right? And then you got the inside of your orange. You've got the limbic system, and then this orange is connected to a branch, and the branch is the brainstem. Going off that metaphor real quick, yes.
Sorry,
Love your questions today. Go on.
The peel kind of looks like a taco, so I'm just confused how that contains like all of that. Like, what's the? Is it like, and then that all comes over?
So like, imagine that this limbic system is like this part right here, and then the cerebral cortex is covering it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you usually see the brain from the outer part, and it just kind of looks like this. Some people like peel that shit open, and you don't usually see those pictures of the brain because it's deeply disturbing. But there are little inner parts to this brain, okay? Everyone only sees this part. This part gets so much attention. These are the lobes that we are talking about. But on the inside, you still have the inside part of your orange. Does that make sense?
So the different sections, they're all on the outside of the brain. None of them is like in.
So if I were to like draw this out, and I were like to take the peel off, I could like unpeel the orange brain, and then I could have like the limbic system right here. And that would be like emotion, motivation, simple judgment, that's this. And then this is your cortex. You would have your frontal. If I was just peeling the top, you would have the parietal, and you would have the occipital. But you see how it's like on top, and you're just like whoosh, taking it up, just like that? They are part of the same brain. Do not think that this is like a second brain that we have or something. This is just one brain. We just have one brain. We're just peeling off little layers now, and we're seeing what's underneath. Does that make sense?
Is that really what the limbic system looks like? That little.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is actually, if you want to break it down further, this is the fornix, and it goes over the basal ganglia. You have the amygdala, you have the hippocampus, you have that kind of stuff, and the thalamus right here, that kind of composes of the entire midbrain. If you want to know further, there's also the dicephalon, contains the hypothalamus and the thalamus. That's a whole other system than the limbic system. You don't have to know that unless you're going into neuro and you want to die like me. You'll learn about it in cognitive neuroscience or social neuroscience, which is like requirement B out of your psych major. And then we already talked about the brainstem. We all know about the brainstem. We all know about the cerebellum. It's just breaking it down further. So, in review, we've covered the lobes. We know it does this kind of stuff. We know that there's an inside to the peel of the orange. Emotion, motivation, simple judgment, and then thalamus, we know we've covered before. It integrates all that sensory information, except one thing, overrides the thalamus. Does anyone remember what that sense is? Do I remember what that sense is? Yes, I do. It's smell. Yeah. And we talked about it last week. Why is smell so important? You can smell predators if you're in your area. You can smell poison before it enters your mouth. If some milk that you're about to drink doesn't smell right, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna wait until I taste that and it's down my mouth. I can smell that it's off. And so that was really important for our ancestors when they were putting random berries in their mouths and they were like, wait, no, this doesn't smell right. I'm not gonna poison myself. And that's why it developed. Everything else goes through the thalamus. It means it has more processes to go through to be integrated into the cerebral cortex. Yeah. The cerebellum, basic motor programs. For example, there is this guy who had a cerebellolectomy, and he had to get it removed because of certain seizures, and he could not balance for the rest of his life. He was just constantly, he had to have two robots kind of on each side of him, keeping that balance for him because he didn't have that cerebellum part of his brain anymore. And brainstem. I'd give an example of someone who's missing their brainstem, except I can't because if you cut off the brain right here, what happens to the rest of the brain? Can you use the rest of your hand if you don't have your wrist? No. Yeah. Does anyone have questions about this? Everyone recognizes this is the whole brain. We know we can connect this picture to this picture, right? You see this is the cerebellum here. We see that there's a cerebellum there. Same brain, okay? Just taking it apart, dissecting it now. Got it? Good. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the part of the brain that was in the temporal lobe, right here, and it was in charge of recognizing faces. Can anyone remind me what that part is called? Talked about recognizing faces a lot. We talked about prosopagnosia a lot. Part of the temporal lobe down there. It was on a bunch of slides. Can you teach those slides?
The what pathway? The ventral?
So yeah, you're right about the pathway. You got the where up here, and you got the what right here. But inside this burrow, for example, there's a particular city that I'm looking for. It's the fusiform gyrus, and it is in charge of facial recognition, which is really important for our entire life. And I wanted to give the example of what goes wrong with it. We learned about it in neuropsych, and it was the most terrifying thing ever, but you would see faces everywhere. If you had abnormal electrical activity in your fusiform gyrus, you would start to have visions and see faces everywhere around here. So you can't really see it because it's dark, but you would also have issues processing faces. Really put this into your brain that the fusiform gyrus is really important for faces. And these are the issues that come up with it if you have seizures in that particular area. Things start to look really, really funky. And you will have to memorize this if you take graduate neuropsych. You'll have to remember how to spell that if you're in graduate neuropsych. It's kind of awful. There's also another part of the fusiform gyrus where if it goes wrong, you will see faces really abnormally. You'll see them as kind of like comic book style. It'll be kind of yeah.
What if you're face blind? Is it just a blur or is it something
So
similar to
face
that?
blind can be a bunch of different issues. It might be an issue of just visual. Maybe you're born congenitally blind. That's a bad example. It could be a problem with sensation, or it can be a problem with perception. Perception.
If it's a problem with perception, what would that look like?
So, sensation would be issues with just completely congenitally blind, and then perception is integrating that in. So actually face blind is this. Face blind is an issue with perception. Like they're still getting that sensory information, they're still getting that visual information, but they don't know what to do with that information. They don't know how to make sense of that information. It's really the difference between sensation and perception. And I think I actually I included that in my chart over here. Yeah, blind sight patients. Yeah, it's an issue of perception. I have examples in these graphs. You don't have to memorize them. It's just to improve your understanding of the material. If I have it in green, then you'll probably have to know it. But all the other information is just to help you really understand the difference between sensation and perception. For example, you don't have to memorize this example, but you should understand it. You should know what it means, that kind of stuff. Please do not put effort trying to memorize every single word of my graphs. This is supposed to help you. Yes?
Could you add that to your website?
Yes. Thank you for the reminder. Let me write that down so I don't forget. But yeah, you should really understand how this graph breaks down. You should be able to remember these examples in class because apparently he likes to quiz on his examples in class. The Ames room, the dress, armadillo, monster being chased. Queen the band supporting weed. Marijuana. Okay, moving on. Did not work. This is glitching today. But yeah, does anyone have questions so far? I need to check on my Mentimeter. If not, we're going to break into small groups and go over some of the questions on the comprehension checks and on the exam. So this is your last chance to really bring up any issues. Everyone know that they have about a week to complain about your test. Everyone know that? Okay. Then, for the last little bit, I want you guys to break into little groups and go over what was confusing and what wasn't and try to teach each other. So let's do groups of 4. 4 here, 4 here, from Genesis to there, 4 here, from Kyle to Henry. 4 here, that's perfect, you guys. Let's see, 4 there, 4 this way, and then that last little group over there. Does that make sense? All right, get into your little groups. Here. Yeah. Just group up. Do your little group thing. Get into groups. Look behind you. What's inside of you. Talk about what was hard. Yes. Name? Oh, Brian. Are you okay? You doing all right? Okay.
Oh, me too.
Use this time to check multiple choice. Did the scan try to fuck you up? Do I need to fight for your grade? Check it. Okay? Everyone have a group? Yeah. Turn around and talk to each other.
Yeah, that's
Right, turn around. Smiley, turn around.
okay.
Face each other.
All right, now it's key.
What did you guys miss? Do we have questions?
Did you guys write down? Guys, can I just put like for this, like, I read this,
It's really, I say it's really, it's not the
So that's a really research background.
As long as you don't turn it in blank, I'm happy.
Is it just this that we're turning in, or like do I have to do this whole situation?
The question is, what is not?
I think they just do it how you do it. I think it's based on that emotions, but these ones?
Okay, but that's what it's right.
Oh, for comprehension.
I said is locating regions which work out to
I think that's how the. Well, it's based on so I think
If my feedback is confusing, let me know. I get that a lot.
They did get your
This is the example. Like the black mall in the city, right? Yeah, so the black mall.
Oh, yeah, that's wait, I can Oh, is it?
The creator gives me the point, but like behind the comment that they don't really hear.
So did you guys just review? Not even the last one. That's great, because last one did 4 o'clock, so I missed everything. That's awesome. So I missed everything about this. That's awesome. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I wasn't. I was gone. It was like, I don't really know what happened. Oh yeah, I was here last week on Monday, but I wasn't at the site. Like the lecture. Yeah, I wasn't there. Wait, you guys were going? It was very vague. I don't know why I chose.
What lessons are
We actually know Monday was Wednesday.
Yeah, they wanted a definition. Keyword definition.
I studied
Key term, definition, we have an example.
And also humans.
But the idea is that they're simply getting better at like surviving and not necessarily better, you know.
Good, very good. Good job.
Just depending on how
Doing
you
good. Any questions about feedback? Any questions about the questions? Yes.
These have grading your multiple choice and then.
Oh, you're so smart. You're so smart. You're so smart. You're.
So how does
They should be paying me.
No, literally.
So basically,
I have a
we
little
all get
breakdown of how you use
everyone
that.
dies.
That
That will be the information class, probably consider that.
whatever the class is, like wherever it's supposed to be, press on it, it'll show you the example of another student's problem. I can also explain it now. So you'd be like, doors have it, only copies is where. And the bench doors, yeah, what? Because they're
I just go there and start pressing different. We're there.
Provide evidence.
That's how you should go to class every time.
It's just trying to get at.
I do. Because I think it's silly.
There's different things.
This is the same as ours.
People got questions that was answered for that part really easily by just saying, how was the what dorsal is where two different parts and two different functions. Because we're so
Upper part
They're so out of pocket.
much better visualization. It's kind of self-evident in the questions.
I think that's all. They're lovely. They're not used to be stuff. That's fascinating. That's why I like that.
I believe that this is
Like, Josh, they have nothing going on.
it's not amazing. Right?
It'll be helpful to look at
Like, communicate your needs. I don't want to know.
Recognize like the what we learned about it.
You will learn about it and you will strive for
No,
it.
you probably got the double. You're actually here to study.
Basically, like, in the cities, factories are all small.
Then you got full credit, babe. Yeah, if you have no like subtraction signs, no like notes about what you did, you did good. You got full points. Look at you. Good job.
So essentially,
That's a
like,
good.
all the
That's a good.
ones that weren't black.
No, literally.
Did you have Yeah, so for experimental design, you can't only just have one group that you put the variable in or like experiment. You have to compare it to a group that doesn't have that variable. Like, or else you don't really
like how we
get
started with
that.
ours. It like challenges us.
No, I was actually very I was literally like
Any question?
yeah, I was really
It's a stranger next to me. Your whole life story.
There you go. Keep it short. The only time I've said actually no, I was when somebody like made a whole story. She was like, and I was like, bro, they're not gonna stand for it. It's like, you just gotta like. But for this, like, it is a test. Experimental design, how you're gonna do control, like what the variables are, like what the result is. It's observational. Like, you can like, don't worry, it's not ready. Unless it's like question. So that's like, you need a reference, but you don't want to just get it like it is. You have so what it could try argue that this is why. Do you say control anything? Do you say experimental? that
I'm
you're
not
saying
going
it's
to
about
that.
Because I had it on point, so I told her. I didn't know it was gonna last that long, so I just.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think people win if they have a key term, definition, and example.
Video, they still get the name of the person who was
So
doing
I would say,
it.
if you had names of you had your term in there, you have the definition and you have an example.
Oh, that's so funny. You know what, you guys are really trying to back it. It literally was meant to happen.
Like, reach out to me.
I haven't switched.
Thank you.
You're so good. I talked to your recitation leader. I'm gonna put in your points. You are not zeroing out or anything.
Okay, so I got it after my previous assignments at my previous section because the previous
Peace
one will be
out.
on Tuesday, so I already finished the assignment of this class, so I didn't finish that.
Yeah,
So
no. I let her know, and she's going to count whatever you turned in here as your
okay.
final one, and
Okay,
it'll
and
update
How
on
can
your.
I get the other notes in Brightspace of this section?
So, because I can't add you on Brightspace, I made a website for the people like Kaylee, who informally switched over.
I saw the link.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you go
okay.
to the website, it has the recording, it has the notes, it has study guides. I haven't put memes on there yet, but it will be full of memes, and you should be able to do it that way.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And how about the pictures of Minty?
Pictures on Mentu,
Yeah.
the slides will also be updated to the Wix.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm, of course. You too. Have a great one, Nora. Yes. Hey, Rebecca.
Next week I won't be here because of holidays. If Zoom is working, is there a possibility I could join it through Zoom?
Yes. And also, I'm not supposed to, but I am trying to organize people to retake exams that they missed. But it's a headache because there's so many people. Email me about it.
Okay.
I have to do a when to meet and figure out how to proctor all of them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Contact me. Did you contact me about the when to meet? Did you tell me what time?
No.
Bitch, I am trying to proctor your
I'm
exam.
trying to figure it out too.
Okay.
But like whenever, honestly.
Bro,
like,
I cannot do whenever. There's like 7 other people.
well, whenever they want to do it, then I'll just
Bro.
like make time.
Bro, okay.
Show up.
Okay. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it
You
out.
said you have office hours 9 to 12. 'Cause it was
9 to 12 on Wednesday.
So tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, this would probably be better to go over in office hours.
Yeah, you can go over it in office
Okay.
hours. Yeah, I'll be there. You know where?
I don't remember.
Myers. It's like the one that says psychology
the
building.
psychology building, right? It was.
And
the
it's like right across from Gallatin.
Yeah.
It's, like near the McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think I might show up.
4, like floor 4,
Floor. Okay, it's 4. Okay.
and then 4:33. Okay.
33. Okay. I'll
9
remember that.
o'clock.
9 o'clock is early.
You can do it in like 10. I'll be there until 12. I just have class at like 12:30, but
Okay.
show
Keep that in
up.
mind.
Show up.
Thanks.
Okay. Hey Kaylee, how's it
I
going?
reread my experimental short answer and I was like, I didn't eat with that one, so I guess for next test I have to like work on that.
Short answers are hard. A lot of people like forgot to write the key term and they lost points even though she had like a full definition and a full example. I was like, babe, you have to say that you have a control group and an experimental group, and she lost points because of it.
Yeah.
But like if you want to argue something, I'm down.
I mean, no,
To the Bossiers, please don't argue against me.
my brain just blanked when it was like the features. I forgot to do the observer thing, bias, like
Yeah.
with the double blind.
I thought that he would be mean about it, and I literally went over it in my office hour or whatever thing.
Oh no, don't worry. I
Bro,
didn't either.
they're so good.
I'll
See
be
you,
there
Laura.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow at
And
9.
it'll be slang.
Peace
yeah.
out.
Peace.
Bye, Kaylee. Hey, Miney, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just ask me about the first test.
First test. Was it the one that you missed?
Yeah.
I'm trying to proctor like a billion people. Will you email me about it?
Okay.
I'm gonna have someone else do that because I cannot figure out
Okay.
when to meet.
Okay.
Do you want to be added to a group so I can like just say like all of you guys talk to each other, figure it out, contact me? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Also, the packet is due on Monday, the packet you gave us, so we
Yes.
fill it out and then
Just
bring
fill it out, bring it back,
Okay.
and yeah, I'll look over it.